win to stay against RNG. We're going to Big Ban, 13.5 still there. We noticed we were mentioning Xiaohao's Lee Sin. It's going to be one of the first bans taken away by TT.
UCal's going to have his Tristana taken away as well. UCal and Scout are the two players that really come to mind in the mid lane when playing those champions. Xiaohao was going to take a hit in his champion pool again with the Vi being removed. Betty is going to go towards one of his most successful AD carries and one of pretty much everyone's most played AD carries in that Zeri first picked. Wonder what they're going to go lock in alongside that. Sword Art on stuff like the Enchanters has suffered a little bit, really. And if you're going to pair it up with something like the Lulu, it's only had the one game of it. They've not really prioritized that. They were really a Zeri Yumi team earlier in the split before that cat kind of got so heavily nerfed. On the other side, though, looks like we're probably going to go see ourselves, you know, a bit more of an aggressive pick in that Wukong being locked in, and of course it is. Now, Xiao, what's he got in a matchup now without the Lee Sin, the Vi, or the Wukong? Needs to start dipping into the champion pool.
Well, again, we just know that it's going to be a bit of a handshake deal, or it could be the Xin Zhao, which has been popping up more and more. It's not just LPL, is it? It's across LCS, across other regions too. Xin Zhao's been seen more and more.
In the crazy 5-game series yesterday. It's going to be locked in here.
So again, we get to see and hear from Xiaohao, and even last year, I mean, he was popping this pick out left, right, and center. So a very familiar one here for the jungler of anyone's legend. Is for now, we'll just have to see what they pull on rotation. Support's still up and available, which is often seen in the first 3 here. And Nymera, when you have Lulu, it just feels like the natural pick.
It does, but that's why it's so strange that, you know, Sword's not really played the pick this split. He's played one game of it, despite Betty having 7 games on that Zeri. They're kind of focused on this in the early split and never really got beyond that point. On the other side now, you've got the Aphelios and the Rakan, which is not always the most intuitive lane pairing. We've normally seen Aphelios with something like a Nautilus or a Thresh for kind of easy engage or disengage, or something like the Lulu itself to kind of give you that extra movement speed to work with. Oh, Annie has also been a pretty good pick for that champion. So maybe with that Zeri Lulu, which I would consider on paper nameplates off, stronger 2v2 lane, they can maybe upset a little bit of what Huanfeng and Yao Yao want to do in the early game.
But we'll have to see, because it again depends on what happens in these solo lanes. Some of these stars for TT, especially UCal, you highlighted before. They are setting up for Hoya up in the top side, though, with the Renekton banned away. Maybe something safer here for the engagers. K'Sante taken away by anyone's legend. But Nymera, my biggest question as Jax goes is, are they looking for something like a Camille, something like a Fiora here? Maybe something with playmaking potential for Hoya.
I wonder if you do that, or if you just go towards Na and you play towards the Aphelios. Playing towards an Aphelios is never a bad thing. And then there's Cannon as well. Cannon buffed in the LPL. Very, very strong. And now suddenly it's that you can't really lock a Fiora into a Cannon. Even some of our better Fioras have struggled in that. It would... Look, I see you hovering these picks for ZDC. I see you hovering them. It's not really a great time into the Cannon, because Cannon is such a good early lane bully. You prefer to play something that out-tanks and outscales if at all possible. But I think we saw IG, when Nani kind of subbed in, they played some pretty good anti-Cannon games, rather, when they played Sion into it. And it's going to be Malphite. We've not seen a huge amount of that in the LPL, but it is starting to crop up worldwide. BDF's played a game of it. I think it's played in the LCS playoffs as well recently too. Now it's starting to come back into the LPL and into the Cannon. If you do survive that early lane, you kind of feel bad about life, because you don't really damage him.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's going to be hard, right? And I think it's worth mentioning that for ZDZ, this is going to be champion number 15 in the unique champion pool. So something to highlight here, that the top laner, they play Jax non-stop for this split, are now going to be showing us something new, flaring into Hoya, as Pinzy even going for an aggressive mid lane option. But UCal has his counter pick available if he wants to go for something more aggressive or for something outside the lane.
It locks in the Akali, so there is a fair amount of versatility in how this mid-jungle 2v2 can play out, particularly if you have a good scout of the weak landing. Xiaohao can start to really combo up into that. However, Syndra into Akali and Wukong, their mobility and their ability to get on top of that Syndra gets really, really painful if you step out of position. So for me, I think AL, you're going to have to suffer a little bit in the very early game in that top lane matchup. And then after that point, it really is about just making sure you've got vision to protect yourself against the multiple flanking threats of TT. If Syndra and Zeri can start free firing, if they can get the first kill of the game, first kill of the fight rather, that can end up kind of putting themselves into a good position. But with the flanking threats on the other side, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? So keep space maybe as well with the Syndrome. Feels like some kind of angle to maintain. As for ZDZ, I'm curious about the Malphite getting into the fight, but I'm more curious about TT, whether they can maintain not only their honor, but their position in this league. They've locked in playoffs. They are in a good spot, but they have to win this series because with a loss regardless, they would move to 10th. If TT go to 10th, they first top esports in round 1 of playoffs. Right now, they're pitted to face off against RNG, and a lot of you be sitting at home saying maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's much better than going up against TES. But regardless, TT, they need a series win here to end off the split and give themselves momentum going into playoffs as well as we head into Summoner's Rift for our last day of the LPL for 2023 spring. Last day means only one thing, that these teams are going to be hoping that they get enough of a break before playoffs comes along, because usually LPL runs straight into playoffs non-stop. Of course, we have announced dates as Gio's come through, and I'll tell you right after this.
Fraz live today.
A little bit.
Those Gios, as you're saying. And
yeah,
it's definitely worth going up.
I was going to jump in, Nightmare, and just quickly say, outside of the Gios, it needs to be mentioned. We didn't say it on top of the show, but we will make sure we end with it. Playoffs has been confirmed to start on the 30th of March for anyone out there. So for the LPL, that will be 8th versus 9th, which, funnily enough, if TT win this series, that'll be them. They'll be playing again in 4 days in a best-of-5 versus RNG.
And that would be pretty rough schedule for them, as we were saying, in terms of, like, there is no easy first-round matchup in the LPL. It's not like one team is... Okay, no one is really kind of, like, feels like they're out of place being in playoffs. You could maybe make an argument that teams have snuck into playoffs because of how close it has been, but it's not a case that they are, like, unworthy playoffs contenders. So when we're heading into these playoffs, you can't sleep on any of these matchups. These teams can very much upset each other. They can really bite back. And with the games happening so quickly, back and forth, there are games pretty much day in, day out as soon as they start. You can't really afford to fall behind the pace of the schedule.
And look, it's a hard schedule. If that LPL is so full on. 17 teams in the league, and 10 of them making it to playoffs. The touch-up to go straight to playoffs, the prep time is limited. It feels like TT would already be prepping towards a team like RNG now. Again, it's a funny thing, if they lose this series, they'll be going up against top esports and the prep will change completely. So, Nightmare, as we look at this game and how important it is, let's just come back to what you said, the all-in potential of TT. We are looking for that ult mark, that dive ability, and see what Day7 can get done early as well to kind of set TT up for success.
Yeah, because Day7 had a bit of a rough series last time I was watching him on the Rift. Felt like, he had a couple of options in early game in a number of games he's played recently and couldn't quite land that mark. But I think in this game, the difference between that sort of arrangement and this one is that you actually have some winning lanes to play through. You can see that Hoya starting to get that early shove on in the top side. It is a cull on the cannon. However, with the Airy, you do assume that it still will be going towards an AP build. Sometimes we do see some AD cannons, so it's just kind of worth noting. I guess into a Malphite, you'd never expect it. Again, still just worth putting that on the table. Bot side of the map as well, kind of talked about how the Zeri Lulu, it's a more kind of coherent lane choice. That 2v2 is one which we've seen picked up as a duo a lot more than something like the fellas with a Rakan. That's not normally the support pairing for this AD carry, but they're just happy to collect waves of turrets, even though they're getting shoved in. The Zeri Lulu's not awesome at exploiting these kind of wave pushes. So what TT are doing in this mind is, in my mind, is starting to scale up a little bit through that FL, so soaking those waves under turret and then putting the pressure elsewhere. We have to pause because Day7 going to get ganked up here by Xiao Hao. The 3 Talon Strike going to be flashed to match. Gets it up. Pinsy, flash scatter of the week. Anyone's legend with first blood. That was clean. Xiao Hao and aggressive early junglers happen with the Lee Sin first in this split. But that Xin Sao first time bringing that out onto the Rift for his team. Gets a kill. Importantly, gets the double buffs away from Day7 as well. And speaking of Day7 kind of like struggling a little bit in early games recently, dies for that first blood. It's a bit of an awkward moment for him. I mean, that first blood going to Pinsy as well in a lane that we know is going to do pretty well here, at least till 6. Look at the replay, Nightmare, because there was a level disadvantage and Xiao Hao still went for this. Yeah, because Jinzou's a hell of an early game champion, Hysterics.
True.
This is one of the reasons seeing this come out. We're seeing a return to the mid lane. Pinz called out.
There is a response. Beitron won't have the flash, but the Shuriken flip lands. Yucal doesn't even press it again. He gives the kill over to Beitron, and now we have a match kill for TT.
Gosh, mid-jungle 2v2. Said it could kind of work out in various different ways. Scout of the week playing a very important point, but the second part of what we said about that is that Syndra, when you don't have the best mobility, can get picked off by the high mobility, high catch-out champions like... that's a lot of damage.
Hoya. Once again, TD's going to have to TP back here, Nymira, but God, he's doing well in this lane.
He is, and you expect Kennen to bully tanks early. It's only really after they get the kind of components coming in that maybe you can take some extended trades and shrug off some of that poke. But as it stands right now, Hoya making the most of that early laning experience. And then also making the use of the fact that Xiaohao is not in his lane, been spotted around that mid-jungle 2v2 a little bit. And now you've got that, you've got yourself those wards in River as well. We're going to put that down there. Felt safe to push in. As soon as Xiaohao is spotted around the map, TT get a lot more freedom to play. But he's currently slipped under the radar around this bottom side of the map.
We'll just be starting up Dragon by himself as well. Another perk of the damage of Xin Zhao this early.
Very true.
Just being able to solo out this Dragon, is... Look, Pinz also having the level 6 feels like the priority. Just give the Nova a bit more here to anyone's legend. And nice to see this mid-jungle duo really firing to start off this game. Even though this team's out of playoffs, it's just a nice little touch to what to expect coming towards the next split.
Yucal trying to dance around just a little bit. And of course Yucal, something like the Akali, gives him playmaking, and he has been such a big playmaker. You can understand why Xiaohao has been settling on trying to disrupt that mid-jungle 2v2 if at all possible. Stop Beitron being able to set up his lanes for success. Oh yeah, Beitron, what's the top side of the map? He's spotted for now.
Well, Malphite does have ulti, so Unstoppable Onslaught going to be used to get out of there. Unstoppable Force. Beitron without the Cyclone or a Flash, again, can't find his way into top side, and that's just going to be ulti from ulti in the top lane trade.
Do you particularly like the fact that we have like several big engage ultimates being named very similarly? We've got Unstoppable Force, Unstoppable Onslaught, Onslaught of Shadows. Any other ones you'd want to throw in the pile?
Oh man, I mean, I'm sure there's so many more, like Glacial Prison, Glacial Tomb.
Okay, but that makes sense because they're all Freljord. They're actually all related. That one at least I can get behind.
But then Glacial Path is there as well. I mean, it gets confusing as sort of going to peek in the mid lane. Yao Yao's here as well. We're just getting a bit of a scuffle, but Xiaohao's nearby. It depends on the Scout of the Week, but Pinz will not throw it out. And I will say, there are so many ultis that, like Grand Entrance for KW versus,
Oh, and then the heroic entrance.
Entrance from Galio. It's easy to get it confused because you think, wait, which one is which?
That's true. I mean, for me, the thing is, I don't mind if they're related. It's just when they're completely different champions, not from the same region. And I know that, you don't have to give a damn about lore. You don't have to. But at least there should be some reasoning for it. I mean, I get that some words are just nice to use. You know what I miss? Hyperkinetic position reverser.
Oh.
Now, that was an ultimate.
Oh, God.
That one is one that we have been bereaved of that one.
But what's his new one? It's not Fear Beyond Death, is it?
Fear Beyond Death, yeah, it is, yeah.
I mean, I will say, still a great ulti, but yeah, Hyperkinetic Position Reverser was just a fun mouthful, you know? It was the perfect ulti. And speaking of perfect, look, Hoya, God, he's smashing top. This is the second time around that ZDZ might get forced out of lane, especially with TT moving topside. This Malphite has to start paying respect because they're on top of Herald, but he doesn't know where they are now.
Yeah, so Kennen and Malphite kind of traded ults earlier, which means that ZDZ's not really in a position with that ultimate still on cooldown for a little bit to position aggressively, try and get in towards the Herald, force an engage and an escape tool, as we saw a little earlier. That's going to lead to the topside pressure coming out from TT from this cannon, from the mid-jungle TV2. Going to lead to a Herald stop. But Hoya, you can't be here. This is really aggressive.
Are you ready? Well, he ults out of there. Hoya uses his a little bit early, but now anyone's legend here. 3 Talon Strike. Followed up by Wind Becomes Lightning. Wait for it. Xiaohao is trying to get his flash out. Gets it, but then Scout of the Week over the wall. The terrain is perfect from Pinz.
Cheese Wheel from the Malphite. Gets an assist for that as well. And Hoya, for all of the feel-good dopamine you get from getting a 20 CS lead early, this is the problem with playing ranged top laners. You make one mistake, and that one's a pretty awkward one as you're trying to dip very deep into the jungle on half HP. it makes you feel so bad after you get that first death. TT's still looking to contest. They have ultimates available, and they just used Xiaohao's engages.
Yukal's in. The quickness going to be coming in as well. There's the Crescent Guarders. There's Cyclone on top. Xiaohao is just disintegrated. Yukao jumps in onto Pinsy yet again. The damage is there. Yukao going to be running out, though. Even with Flash available, doesn't want to overextend into that top lane turret. And for TT, they regain control. They herald the Do-Si-Do for the final turn.
Yeah, and I got my words a little bit messed up because it's the Malphite engage that was used, and he wasn't even there. So I was looking at the screen, I'm like, oh, have they really engaged this after staying that far? TT, they have themselves their ultimates after this point. I mean, bit of a reaction check from Hoyer onto ZDZ, just trying to see if you can get that stun before the ultimate comes down, maybe gets a kill after that point, but then the flashes traded between those top laners. This is a good pick, but then the extended fight afterwards around that Herald, Xin Zhao's really strong, don't get me wrong, but not having that extra engage option felt like it was a little bit of an overstay towards that Herald.
You've got to remember as well for Pinsy, after using everything, it looked a little bit difficult to continue staying in the fight too, and because of that play, Herald ends up going back over to TT. Gold is even after anyone's legend with a team that were really funneling gold into the Syndra, but a minor shutdown given over, and look, Yukao in a great position. You can see 1-0-1, not only keeping up with CS, might even have a lead with a Hextech alternator that soon will become a mythic, quite on par with Pinsy depending on the back.
Yeah, and how many times have we said that about Yukao this split? Has felt like he has been one of our kind of team-defining players.
Yep.
We have a lot of elite players, particularly in the mid lane in the LPL, but Yukao has been... I think it's pretty hard to argue that there are many mid laners who are more important to their teams than Yukao. He's had some incredible solo carry performances, so him having any kind of gold, so you feel a little bit worried as anyone's legend. They do have themselves one dragon, DuAL. They can potentially get themselves another. It will be on Vision, so TT have full information should they want to have a mosey around that map. But with bot lane reset, I think this dragon's probably going to be at a low enough health afterwards that... No, actually, they actually are going to be able to contest. I was wondering if this is going to be go down too quickly. Aphelios won't be here. That's the big thing.
True. Where you already have Betty sitting here waiting as well. With that ultimate up and available, Dragon at 1500, Yao jumps on him with Grand Entrance, quickness on top as well, Lightning Crash comes through. Anyone's legend going to get the Dragon, but they're going to die for it. First to go is Xiaohao as baits one, gets hit by Scatter the Week, and so does Guanfeng. Pinsy carrying this game right now as Betty has to flash over a close call with Guanfeng sending out the Moonlight Vigil. And for TT, they walk away with only a trade, but losing the Dragon again.
So the jungler goes down, but your two carries, the ones which kind of like need to be very afraid of the diving threat, aren't really touched by TT. So they lose out on the Dragon, they lose a kill, and AL, despite of the awkward moment around Herald, they end up losing out on that side of the map. So you end up picking up at least one thing after this point. So Xiaohao is burst out really heavily, and of course has the Crescent Guard to stop things getting too dire too quickly. Managed to kind of like force in Baytron to kind of use the second part of that Cyclone. It means that there's less threat onto Betty and onto Pinsy. Almost gets a return kill from Yukao on the other side. Sadly can't do it from that point. But you can see how important it is to see where the threat is onto these carries of AL. CT, they can't let them really free fire.
Yeah, again, you talked a lot about that all in that wombo, that I guess that pummeling that's going to come through in a team fight. If everything lands, but bit of space, bit of time, and anyone's legend start becoming more and more reliable. For now, Betty, one item, used that ulti, was able to pick up a kill, so there's a bit of an advantage here in the bottom lane where Guanfeng unable to find the kill in return. What I'm looking towards, Nymera, is the fact that gold is still dead even, but anyone's legend are now controlling the pace of these dragons very early into the game. Despite it being a Chemtech soul, it's still a soul that they're playing towards.
It's also a Chemtech soul for the Malphite, who we've talked about already being a bit of a menace. Now, of course, Malphite, not really the same case as something like a Sion, who becomes kind of... He's more consistently disruptive in a team fight after his ultimate and his first round of cooldowns are used, but ZDZ, he kind of gets to shut the door in front of Guanfeng, something like that in this team fight. Things could get a little dangerous. AL, the bot lane is pushed up. Baytron, you actually be able to catch him out here.
Okay, Cyclone starts it off. Into the air again, crabbing him down, perfectly done. The ult's going to miss from Guanfeng, but Yao picks up the kill, and the CC change just makes sense on the Betty.
I was wondering what was going to happen with if there could be an interrupt from the wild growth, whether there would be a polymorph coming into play, but they can't disengage that. Pushed up too far, punished for it. And this Seri Lulu, despite them doing well hit. Pingsy trying to cross up on the top side.
Okay, well, Moya going to get scouted the week, and once again, These slicing maelstorms have been, I don't know, rough to say the least, Andrea.
It's like, I think you got to downgrade them to like category. Wait, category what kind of storm? I can't remember where is the difference between a tropical storm and like a proper like hurricane? Like, is it category 5? Is that like the highest
we have
category
Google.
storm before it becomes
Category 5 storm. We do have DEFCON 1.
No, that's
so
different. That's security ratings in like various different
in the
military
Pentagon.
installations.
Yeah. But
yes,
Category 5 storm is among the strongest tropical cyclones that can form on Earth.
Okay, so not Category 5. That's too high. Category less than 5. Yeah.
Category 1.
See, that's just not as easy to say. It's a Category 1 storm for now. We'll see. We'll kind of like put out weather warnings as the game goes by, see if Hoya really starts to pop off. But
it's
now,
not 2.
it's just like
Category
a
storm is really weak. It's like 96 to 110 miles an hour. It's extremely dangerous, but Category 5 is like 250 kilometers an hour. So
that's like get into a basement somewhere, please.
Category 2 is like, man, trees are going sideways. Looks pretty dangerous. Category 5 is like, dude, I hope we have a bunker or our roof is going.
Yeah, the trees are actually out. So the trees are sideways at Cat 2, and then as Cat 5 is like the trees are actually just they've vacated. They've gone. They've migrated to another field.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So
migrating into the enemy jungle. So there's going to be a bit of a cross map. CDC left alone in an extended lane. Not even gonna. Yeah, I was wondering if he was going to have to be forced to ult. Not going to be the case here, though.
Only Category 2. Doesn't matter. He's fine. Look, at the very least, CDC knows that so far the Storms have been living up to the name, as Protobelt was also down, while Day7, he's going to pop in a mid. Betty saw the clone. He stands there disrespectfully, does pop the ulti. He'll get out in the nick of time, but Day7 forcing that Cyclone. Adds pressure towards mid, sets them up towards his Herald that's now spawned.
And this is one of the continuing kind of, I suppose, worries. One of the hallmarks of AL is that sometimes they just leave someone alone in the lane when they probably shouldn't. They overload towards topside, maybe see if they can force in towards that tower, but they just kind of don't cross their eyes and dot their T's in terms of where Betty is in the equation. They're teleporting in ZDZ, but they're not in position to fight with Zeri right now.
On an absolute ward, it was a Category 2, you said. Now what's going to happen? Hoya takes a Mega Blast Cone as Hunfeng's there, the flash away. Great timing here. Once again, Hoya not able to do too much with the flash in from Day7. Gets the security on Betty. He's too far up. Yukao has a Shuriken flip, but no follow through onto Xiao Hao. It's a kill here for TT yet again, but I have to be honest, this one is looking a little bit wham bam, thank you, man.
Yeah, and TT didn't even need their other Storm Force ultimate. They didn't need the Cyclone from Day7. This Wukong starting to pick up a lot of gold, and AL, again, really starting to struggle in where they're putting people on the map. They weren't in position to have Betty join the fight. He kind of rushes to the play, gets immediately caught out, and now the Dragon stacking is going to suffer because of that. A couple of these momentary misplays, how they're approaching the fights with the teleports, with these engages, are starting to put them behind in a game where it felt like they should be feeling okay. You're right in saying they were on a ward. He clears the ward after that point and goes, oh, well, that's a little bit awkward. And despite Hoya kind of being caught out on the bit of an awkward side of this, Hunfeng with great flash backwards means that the big engage from AL, again, is just very disconnected. Vijinta's not even part of this big fight. Maybe if you can get him into a position to do some damage, it looks different, but not in this case.
Rock watching his brethren die in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, we pull one out as Hoya comes through. There we go. Category 2. I think that's fair. Sawdust's going to die. Day7's there as well, but Betty goes over the wall, pops his surge as well. Onto Day7, he'll find the damage right from Pinzi, who again is making AL look comparable in this first game.
Yeah, so luckily one of these carries of the Syndra has an earlier spike than the other one. You wait for a couple of items on the Zeri, but this Syndra already getting towards 1.5. Starting to get to the point where it's starting to be a bit of a storm chaser, shall we say. Making sure that they get onto a couple of these diving champions of the Wukong and the Cannon. If they don't get themselves into a position where they are forcing Pingzi to flash backwards, to kind of use their skills very defensively, then on the other side, on the aggressive side of it, you can start really blowing them up.
Look, no gold lead. On the top of our screens, absolutely none. Pinzi might have this potential, but remember, he's gone towards Banshee's Val second. Scared about that all-in we talked about from TT. And at 19 minutes into the game, where TT are trying to angle for a win regardless, so they don't have to face up against top esports in round 1. They've got a couple of spikes coming their way too. Void Stuff now picked up Yukao, who's had a pretty good game as well. And we're just kind of waiting for that Infinity Edge from Hunfeng as he sits with all the components ready and waiting.
Second item spike, very important towards Aphelios. Aphelios is a... As far as hyper carries go, he's quite a bursty one because he has some weapon combinations that allow him to kind of effectively cycle through 3 or 4 autos with his abilities as well. A lot of them have like an auto attack tacked on in there somewhere, including his ultimate. So if you have an Infinity Edge kind of put into the equation, crits that can come through from those autos can be very, very powerful. And not having that power spike means that you're looking at the Runans on the other side of Betty. And if he can find the space, which he hasn't really managed to do so quite successfully yet, had that one dragon fight where things looked like maybe he could start popping off. But yeah, you're not really able to match that value as it stands.
Well, a shame for now. But at the very least, let's just get towards another fight. Because for AL, look, you're out of the split. You're out of playoffs. You're disruptors. You're a pain in the neck for TT to deal with. And you've already drafted something like the Malphite coming through. ZDZ is showing you don't really need to go to the gym to get rock solid abs. ZDZ is level 13 and he's got a CS lead. Jaksho also in his inventory. He can go in and take pretty minimal damage, as I will say, Chemtech Rift, great for Malphite, who can take blast codes to literally Mars.
Very true. That's very true. I'm not gonna lie, my brain was already on kind of, well, what is Malphite's workout routine then? What's he do for that? But I don't really want to question what like a living like Punk of Rock does in terms of like their own kind of well-being life cycles. Not really sure how you go about that. But hey, maybe a conversation for another time. I can't. I just can't visualize it right now.
It's all right. Look, his gym. He's the only one that goes there. Probably him and Galio, actually. If we're being real, there is no one else on the Rift who could, like Aurelion Sol, he probably owns the gym because he's a side.
Garen has that one emote where he like does the one-handed handstand. So yeah, Garen could maybe join them. It's a little bit different.
Who's
Braum? There's Braum. Braum literally punched his way through a mountain to get a shield.
He's a personal trainer.
And now suddenly, and we have the Mundo gym skin. We already have. This is an entire like new gym kind of expansion to that existing lore. We can go that way.
True. I'm trying to look through. Like everyone, it's strange because in League of Legends they're either Jack or they've got a big belly. You know, like Bard, a little bit overweight. Gragas, quite a bit overweight. Then you look on the other side, and like even Cho'Gath looks like he's shredded.
Doesn't that look, particularly the Gragas thing, doesn't that strike you as odd? Because this guy is like throwing himself around like with incredible dexterity. I don't know what he does, but whatever he's done for himself, it works for him. Pingsy actually managing to man-mark Beitron, which I wouldn't have thought would have worked there, but Beitron at least going to be in a flanking position. CT briefly getting back to the objective setup. Of course, Dragon is up in 10 seconds, trying to get to a point where they can again, utilize their flanking champions. AL, not really seeing them fall apart in their carries just yet, but that is a potential eventuality of what CT can do to them.
Well, UCal is going to be clearing out this wave first. Look for ZDZ. He's going to be spotted out. The flanking angle picked apart by TT is Chemtem's Dragon number 2. Would give anyone Legends their sole point, but as they keep pummeling away, it's going to be the one-on-one here in the back end with UCal versus ZDZ. TT get control of the Dragon timing. Hoya almost dies again. He's having a pretty horrendous game as anyone's Legend. Still the Dragon. Yao with quickness, but this is all over the place. ZDZ will get a 3-man ulti while Week10 Cyclone plate with the scat of the week. Pinsy tried everything, and Betty is now recharged. Flush on him. Pinsy gets one bong as he's in a 1v3, but Betty cleans it up. TT just a bit sloppy, and you have to say Hoya better start doing something soon.
Yeah, because TT was scattered to the winds and they didn't have their slicing maelstrom in that fight. Pingsy was doing a great job just before that fight of kind of man-marking first Beitron and then Hoya when they were looking for their flanks. Spots out Beitron, make sure the Cyclone's not in position, and he's going storm chasing for another one. Hoya has the ult blown onto him, and this is the key moment. As soon as this cannon can't be flashing aggressively with that ultimate going forwards, AL have a lot more space to work with, and space is all Zeri needs. You're at that 2 items plus power spike at this point. Everyone funnels into a Malphite ultimate for reasons beyond my comprehension, not exactly why they're trying to stack up that point. Give them a really good chance to enter that play. And your HP values beyond that point are just so different between these two teams.
Oh, so different. Wild Growth helps out in that value as well. Again, Zeri Lulu, such a fun, different, you know, a duo we haven't seen before. But it is It's just so. I'm pretty sick of it. I can't wait for the 80 carry meta to change. You know what? What
okay,
changed?
What 80 carries do you want back then? Like, do you want to see
Vayne.
Twitch? Do you want to see like
Vayne,
Samira? Or...
Samira, more
Vayne?
Samira.
Yeah.
Like
you can see Vayne, but in top lane. just
well,
not in bot lane.
But if I go through the 80 carry pool, I'm like, dude, Vayne, Cogmore I'm okay with. You know, maybe more Kalista, Munchable said.
Yeah?
I love Kai'Sa. Like, we've seen a little bit of Kai'Sa, but Kai'Sa meta is awesome, especially when it's coupled with Kayle, like it was in
I do like Xayah.
2019
In fact, I do quite like seeing Xayah as well because she feels a little bit more interactive. It feels a bit bad now that her ultimate is up all the time. That one feels a bit awkward. You know, funny you mentioned the Vayne. There has been some Q-Max Essence Reaver builds happening. Pingsy, trying to, again, go Storm Chasing.
Flash, Hoya gets the start. Okay, man, finally we get something here as the ulti's dodged away from Yukal, does a great job finishing off. Hoya close to dying himself, but Yukal saving his life, and in fact, might even get another kill. Perfect execution, ZDZ kiting away, but it lands. There's a wild growth flash away. He's going to 1v3. Hoya stands there because he can't add anything more. The cannon is out of juice. As now for Yukal, it's just a matter of time. Anyone's Legend picking up the kill, and ZDZ being solid as always.
It's another day at the gym for him. He's just doing his sets on these two solo lanes at the bot side. Sees his Syndra goes down and then just absolutely mauls them. Takes every bit of damage he can do. And it's not like there's something like a Riftmaker on the Akali. You see that in top lane matchups versus some of these tanks for that. Yukal's gone for the assassination. You can't exactly assassinate a Malphite that's got the Jack Show and the Merc Tread's already in at that point. And AL, out of a pick and a player which has not necessarily been their kind of cornerstone in this split, finding some real success.
God, here we go again, though. Xiaohao jumping in. That's two-man. Anyone's Legend following this up. I want to mention, AL's bottom lane, Nymeria, Betty's got his third item. Navori quick plays comes in red hot, and look, before Huan Feng by quite a bit, as now it's seeming to be the Betty show coming through at this 26-minute mark.
We've already seen that TT have struggled to really threaten the carries in team fights. Yeah, they just caught up Ping Z. Just as you said, that actually is good.
Okay, bounce out. Ping Z, he's having such a great game. It's the second time now he's been caught out as Sword Up maybe as well. There's the Shuriken flip. Hoya finally let's blow it up. We've been waiting the whole game. It's a category 5. Bakes one or just needs to hit him on the head. A bit of a bonk, and TT suddenly in charge with 3 dead on anyone's Legend.
You got Caliber and Crescendum as well. Those rifle turrets very, very quick to cut through that Baron. They stack up Chakram so quickly. So TT, they're going to lose some towers for this as Betty gets something back from it. But AL, huge, huge misplays. Before, Kingsley was getting some value out of looking for Beitron on the flank, looking for Hoya on the flank, but there's still setup required for this. The deep vision beyond where Syndra is playing wasn't quite there, and just walking to 2 people, Yaya managing to make an impact felt there as well, then puts AL into retreat. Because if you manage to kill the Wukong, if you manage to kill a number of those kind of flanking targets, this doesn't happen. You're not retreating into the cannon. The fact that they're retreating into the teleport is what makes it a real killer blow.
TT getting the Baron off the back of it as well. It's a 2k gold lead, but still, it's enough to give them a bit of priority. Betty was trying to push mid while that was going on, but he was unable to break the inhibitor turret. So TT now stand in front of their 3rd Chemtech Dragon, remembering that, you know, before I misspoke, it was actually a steal away from Phase 1, so they have 2 while the Malphite who was trying to flank around ZDZ might be caught out. He's getting low, he's stunned up. Beitron goes over the wall though before finishing him off. The rest of anyone's Legend were converging, but as Yukal now starts the Dragon, they've got a bit of a health advantage because ZDZ doesn't have TP for about 15 seconds if he needs to back it. See you later, says Hoya. In the meantime, he's so out of position because of that. Beitron gets the ulti. ZDZ nowhere to be seen. Hoya with a 1-man, but it's on to Pin Z. Yukal following up the perfect execution, gets the max range, and TT now it's looking so much easier. Outside, the Malphite goes with his ulti, but you never want to see it to disengage. He runs home to mother, and for TT, they'll make sure that game 1 ain't like no other.
He just gives a thumbs up on the way out because he's like, yep, my job here is done. I couldn't carry my team in this fight. See you for the next one. He just walks away. Still not died on the Malphite. One of the only unkilled players on the Rift. Him, Yaya, keeping that up for now. The TT, despite having some awkward moments where they feel like they're kind of playing around, maybe trying to looking for picks which were not as available onto that Malphite, starting to find their way onto these carries, which you said would be the key for them in this game. And sure as you like, Kingsley and Betty not able to get max value out here. And partly that's because they don't have the rock there. They don't have their cornerstone of their team comp. It gets floated into the sky like skipping a stone across a pond. It's not there in the river. It's not there able to kind of save Kingsley and Betty from getting absolutely eviscerated by Hoya, who's starting to get some big ultimates.
And ZDZ, who was once having a pretty solid game, he might not have died, but again, he just hasn't been able to find any of those beautiful ultimates outside of the 1-3-man down the bottom side that set AL up for victory. But things have changed. The quickness comes through. Yao going to pop the ulti a little bit early. Scout of the Week stops him in his path, but it does push them back as TT continue to gain control of the map and continue to show us that this Baron had value. 7,000 Baron power play. TT now 7,000 ahead, in fact, here at the 30-minute mark too.
And what that means is now you've got a Lord Dominus regards onto Hanfeng as well. When you've actually itemized towards MR for the solo laners of TT, you don't necessarily, on this Malphite, have the same ability to chunk through, or rather survive through absolutely everything that the FLS is putting out. Of course, Malphite, very good arm stacking champion, but has had to kind of split the difference a little bit in regards to the build this time. So with that extra gold, Hanfeng in a real position of power. We've been talking about how this should kind of be the Betty show for a little while. And he does have himself up to a 4th item, and it is going to be a Wit's End. So the Magic Resist is there, ready and available, which might be enough to make him survive through part of this engage. Hasn't really managed to do so far. But I think at this point, you have to look at Hanfeng as the main source of damage in these 80 carries. Yep,
LDR's picked up, but again, you were just talking about the Armor versus MR trait being picked up by ZDZ, but, you know, LDR this early on with the Malphite, that's only 2 items, and, you know, should be easy to manage at this point, especially with the GA coming through, the stopwatch already picked up. Hanfeng is going to be doing a lot of that damage.
2 level advantage for Aphelios as well. Actually, I just realized that. That's a level 17 Aphelios. Aphelios is higher level than the solo laners on the other team. I actually hadn't realized that.
And he's got the same CS as well.
Way. Yeah,
so
he's been, I mean,
solo.
I mean, he's got 350 CS. We both AD carries have been picking up a lot of waves. That's typically what you want to do, but I guess Hanfeng's been picking up a lot of solo XP. That'll be one to watch back, actually, because you've now got level 17 on all of your carries. You got it on solo laners and on your AD carry. Betty missing out on a lot of XP somewhere along the way. Actually, Hanfeng just backed for his completed 4th item of that GA as well. Betty's still ahead in items, but as we said, just in this game, if you're killing those tanks and you're trying to survive at the same rate, it does feel like Aphelios is the one to watch. Thing Z does not win against UCal right now.
No.
The UCal not able to pop that Banshees. If the Banshees is down, I think there's a pretty easy kill. Just can't get that for free while you're trying to look for that kill.
Not the only level leading bot, by the way. Jungle's 3 levels as a difference here. Baitron level 16, Xiaohao 13. The only one who's really keeping up and in track is ZDZ, and I guess supports, but you don't really think of it like that. Baron as well gives a bit of experience.
What someone think of the supports hysterics?
Well, I always do, but look, until they get Watchful Wardstone, nothing matters. Because at the end of the day, that item's still great, as long as the game goes at 35, 40 minutes. Now we're getting into that territory.
Because we so rarely see it in pro, and I don't play support in like solo queue or anything like that, really. Is level 13 you can build it from? It's pretty late into the game. Hoya, he's on a bit of a dangerous path again. He's going to be spotted on Pingboard. He knows he's been spotted, though.
He's got a Banshee, so life gets a little bit easier for him, as that's not going to get popped by Betty. But Baron is now up. Anyone's Legend forcing their way into the River Nymera.
Oh, he's feeling it.
They're trying to go on top of Hoya. Betty's still chasing, but I think Hoya's okay for now. He's teleporting where?
What is this? He's teleporting for another
flank. Okay, and they don't know where he is because, again, they're like, okay, Hoya has to be somewhere here. They're chasing for him, but Hoya may be the big brain. He's got flash. He's got ulti. He'll spot him out, but he gives away his position. So much for the element of surprise.
That would have been one of the best plays I've ever seen if he managed to turn a flank into an unexpected re-flank somehow. He's still in Fog of War. He's still looking to find these pockets of vision. He's off vision still. AL funneling through the choke.
They are, and against the cannon won't be good, but into the pit, trying to steal. Xiao has to flash away. Baitron on top of him. Goes out. Baitron, why? He gives away the steal as Hoya's ulti's not good. Anyone's letting have a chance, and Betty is a Zeri who's about to pop the hell off. In the pit, he jumps back in. Golden is Baitron, but UCal, the saving grace, back on in. What? Betty, you psychopath. Fong and UCal make it okay as a 10k damage Zeri gets put into place.
So close though, one more Q on target. Could have taken down one, maybe two extra players from TT. Could have cleaned that up. That's how close it ended up getting. The AL, they kind of funneled back into a difficult kind of position. They stopped themselves getting flanked at the first opportunity. But going back into the replay, we'll see exactly what happens. Of course, the steal still comes through. Xiao makes things really awkward because he just draws so much attention to himself.
What is
That means that
doing?
Fong puts himself into a really difficult position. Baytron also not in a position to get like the best cyclone. Has to flash back into the pit trying to chase Xiaohao around. That Jinzhao, despite it being a champion that falls off into the late game more often than not, gets huge value in that Baron fight.
I just can't believe Fong survives by only a slimmer as well. This was messy as all hell, but Betty just jumps back in. He's like, yep, I can do it. And to be fair, one more auto, he probably does do it.
I mean, more than just that, it would have been one right click, which is an auto attack cancel. That was like split seconds away from killing Fong on the other side. I'm not sure you get UCal down as well, but you could maybe make that a 4-kill fight for that Zeri, which is terrifying, given the potential damage that's coming out of this champion. Absolutely terrifying showing. What happens when, again, you don't shut down these carries early into the fight as TT?
Now you understand why I don't want to see any more Zeri, any more Aphelios. Imagine Vayne in that fight, and you think, oh, what the pog champ in hell is. Hang on, I have to pause because Yao Yao is on the hunt for Vision, but anyone's legend might be on the hunt for him. They come out a little bit early here, as in their own side of the jungle. They're looking for any pick they can find, but no, Mira, I got to mention, in that last fight, while Baron does go over, anyone's legend lost himself to Chemtech Dragon because UCal and Fong picked that up, so we do have a Dragon Soul, or rather, Elder coming up in 4.5 minutes. It's going to be about a minute away from that Baron timer, but they should eventually sync up here as an opportunity for maybe AL to find themselves back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no fight which can't be made a lot more spicy with an Elder steal. They got the Baron steal once, why can't they do that for the Elder? TT would really like that to not happen, but as it stands, they've not managed to get themselves bot side vision control. See if that can change in the next 4 minutes, see if UCal can push in on that side of the map. He doesn't have himself something like a death cap just yet. I think at that point, that's pretty much critical mass for UCal against pretty much everyone on the Rift. I don't think even ZDZ can necessarily stand toe-to-toe with the Akali at that point. Pingsy trying to get some wave push on the other side. He needs to be very careful at this point because the death cap picked up for the cannon, and that one is going to be very scary to walk into. Yeah,
I mean, again, that's so much ability power with 4 items now complete. On the other side, just note that this Malphite, he's gotten tanky with the Force of Nature, but he's still an item behind here against Hoya. Just noting as well, on the other side of things, we do have a Rabadon for Pinsy. So he's heading towards his 5th item now. He's been a core carry so far in this game. A couple of missteps, but obviously if we're saying core carry, now's the time to mention Betty once again. Full item build, Bloodthirster was the final pickup. And this guy has just scaled his way to freedom. Might be behind by like 6,000 gold, but it doesn't matter when Zeri's in the game.
Very true. We saw how close that last fight got. Also worth noting that, of course, Syndra will have a passive maxed out at this point. You normally get that around the level 16 mark, which means that you have the extra 15% extra AP on top of the extra 35% AP that you're getting from the death cap. They're multiplicative, which means that it actually is slightly more than just adding the two together for a 50%. You get like an extra little bit of percent on top of that. And when you're dealing with, on the whole, very squishy champions on the other side of TT, it just means that Syndra, if you actually land a full combo, it's just so much damage.
Oh, yeah. And again, remember that you get execute now as well. Like that ultimate, that can execute below 10%, I believe. So if we do see TT playing on the verge, Pinsy can just nuke them and get a quick takedown as well. That pick that we talked about at the start of draft, that can be utilized still to this point. Now, obviously, scaling's already been talked about. We know how these comps operate. Now, Mira, we do have a minute 15 till Baron. Dragon's going to be 45 seconds-ish behind that. Kind of just curious as to how anyone's legends start getting more vision out, because right now, past the river line is completely blind.
Yeah, that's going to be a real big kicker for them, because they actually did have good bot side vision control just before this last couple of minutes of play. Their water timed out. They've been swept out TT. Most of their game plan is flanking, so most of the game plan, Ego, is about vision as well. See, actually what's happening here is that I think what what AL are doing, seeing TT on the map, is just saying, okay, you have this person in a lane, that means that they can't be hit. If UCal is not on one side of the map, it means that Betty can maybe hop over a wall, start pushing waves a little bit faster. That's what they're doing right now, trying to use the Zeri Lulu as a pushing tool without them getting pushed out. So they've got some top side vision control. Does mean that when Baron spawns, they will have a little bit more control around that side. The question is, if TT split the sides of the map very quickly, if they go from top to bot very quickly, what can AL do when they have to move away from those wards?
For now, towards it isn't even an option. It's 5 seconds till the Baron. Pinsy going to be taking the Wolf. We're looking towards Baron. He's just sitting up top side. I guess he's just waiting to see who shows on top wave while the rest of the team are here.
That is the ward. They're going for Pinsy, I think.
UCal. And guess what? I mean, Pinsy has to flash away, but UCal in the perfect angle. That's a moonlight visual. It's great. In goes UCal. First one bites the dust. His counterpart in the mid lane. Teleports to respond. ZDZ, you're too damn late. It's a 5 versus 4.
And Pinsy, with all the AP in the world, with all the 1,000 AP one-shot like craziness from Syndra in the late game, cannot make it happen. Hoya
he's got a blast cone. He's got a big blast cone.
Flash has ult.
Use it, baby. In we go. But he's denied. Okay, Xiaohao, never mind. Shuts me up as Yao, he's engaging so much better. On the back end, ZDZ once again not finding too much as H1 will zone him off at the checkpoint. ZDZ about to meet his maker as the TT4 are now dead. They've got the option of Baron, of Elder, and anyone's legend have got the option of just dying eventually when this rock man meets his eternal slumber. All right, the turret observer absolutely loves this. Zoom in closer and let's see him die.
Kicked on along the road. Falls into the guns at ZDZ. It is going to... Whoa, hang on. Because of that extended chase, it means that potentially we've got ourselves an unexpected Elder contest. Pingsy died, of course, at the start of this big play.
Alive.
Elder is alive, and despite everyone else being dead, if you misstep into Pingsy, you could be losing someone very quickly. Pingsy has full items now, a Shadow Flame built up on top of everything else. If you walk too far into this, you're just going to die.
H1 did go in. He thought it was only one member, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Pinsy's just dead. Still, anyone's legend. No one else is alive, and TT just snapped their jaws shut. Elder's in front of them. They've already got the Baron, and this game is looking donezo with every passing fight from now.
Yeah, TT, they're just going to sniff that one out. So the last kind of gasp attempt to try and go towards that Elder, it's going to chain into a load of bad fights. Betty has a wall to hop over here, but are they going to be able to run away from this? The entirety of the team, they're going to have to go across the entirety of the map. TT aren't choosing the chase right now.
1 minion to get them through to the inhibitor turret. At least for TT, it should be an easy take regardless. They'll walk up before the minion even gets there.
Ult the minion,
just has to be an
ZDZ, do it.
Might have to do something because everything's crushing in. TT are sitting under turret for him. Look at this. I mean, this Malphite, he's going to try, but versus Elder, how do you go? He's knocked up, sent packing, and Elder makes it easy. One bomb gets the execute at 9, 1, and 4. As the finishing touches look to be put on. Look at this mid AD, even support from TT. They have been pummeling here in this opening game as 36 kills to scout of the week to finish it off. GA yet again. Hoya, you have flash, you have ulti. Hoya, are you going to do it? Hoya, hello, there we go. He doesn't hit it.
Nothing.
Please, no more cannon for this man. I'm sorry, he's had some great games, but boy, oh boy, has it been rough to watch as UCal, on the other hand, will flash. Shuriken flip, not landing there, but at least he's got something behind him this game. Auto attacks are coming through. AL have a bare nexus, but Betty on this champion won't get his chance to flourish. Game 1's over. TT will take a battered out win to send him to match point.
What a bizarre late game. We see TT walking away with the win, but AL... I don't know whether AL made them work for it or whether TT made themselves work for it. They managed to finally kind of catch out that fight around the Nexus with ZDZ being the rock caught between TT and a hard place. Flip that one around because he kind of, after a certain